Normally at this point we would wait for a certification by the Board of Registrars that a quorum is present. But the Board of Registrars is rather heavily preoccupied with checking people in, so therefore we will proceed with an alternate method of verifying that we have a quorum. Our tellers this evening here in the room are Mr. Kenneth Jones, who is going to count the tables up front in the section to my left, and Mr. Joe Sayer is going to count the center section, and Mr. George Reitmeyer is going to count the section to my right, your left. I would like to respectfully ask my tellers to count the number of people who are currently seated in their section and report the count. Mr. Jones, Mr. Sayer, and Mr. Reitmeyer, could you please count the number of people in the sections I've asked you to count? A Ford Explorer 7550BL left their lights on. Better go out and turn them off. 7550BL, Ford Explorer. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Jones?
50, 50.
50. Mr. Sayer?
87.
87. Confirm that a quorum is present. Let the record show that the meeting was called to order at 8 minutes after 7 on this 10th day of December 1998. I would like to call on the Chairman of the Board of Selectmen to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Mr. Vino.
Flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have any motions to admit people who are not registered voters? In that case, do we have a motion to dispense with the reading of the warrant? Is there a motion to dispense with the reading of the warrant? Chair would like to express his gratitude to the people who have taken part of their evening, and we hope to try and make it a small part of their evening, to come here tonight.
Could we have the volume on the sound system turned up, please, for all of us in the hall?
Okay, I'll try to speak into the microphone a little bit more closely. Can you hear me now? The chair would like to express his gratitude to all of you who have taken time out of this evening of yours in order to come down here and help us get a quorum and get the business of the town taken care of. Thank you very much. Mr. Vino.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the following persons be admitted to the meeting: Harold Miller, Freedom of Floor; James Bromley; Leonard Rucker; Thomas Younger; Robert Torres, Freedom of Floor; Philip Pacino; Jessica McKnight; Dave Hanlon.
You've heard the motion to admit people who are not registered voters to the meeting, some of them having freedom of the floor for the purpose of press coverage. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Unanimous. Mr. Jones.
Mr. Moderator, I move to dispense with the reading of the warrant.
You've heard the motion to dispense with the reading of the warrant. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Unanimous. Thank you. Article 1. We also have now a certification from the Board of Registrars. This is to certify that a quorum of 150 voters required to conduct business at a special town meeting under Section 2.4 of the general bylaws for the town of North Reading is present, and it's signed. Article 1.
Mr. Moderator,
What's the point?
Mr. O'Brien has a question.
I do now.
Mr. O'Brien, what business do you have before we have a motion before the meeting?
I'd like to request procedure, how I might develop this. I think most of us are here for a reason. We know what that reason is, to constitute a quorum to deal with 3 articles. And I think most of us know what these articles are, and again, that's the reason why we're here. What I would like to do is dispense with any presentations, go directly to the articles, and move to the question right after the article. Mr. Moderator, if somebody in this particular group feels that they want any clarification on anything, I would yield to that request. But my request is that we go directly to a vote after the article.
The chair hears your request, and we will take it under advisement. Mr. Jones.
The Board of Selectmen, the consensus of the Board of Selectmen is to support Mr. O'Brien's motion, and we were going to make a similar motion, and would make a motion under Article 1. And then if there are any questions or comments, we'd be more than happy to address them. But as Mr. O'Brien aptly stated, we all know why we're here. We appreciate everybody's attendance. We'd like to move forward as quickly as possible. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Article 1. Do we have a motion under Article 1?
Mr. Moderator,
Mr. Jones.
I move to transfer the care, custody, management, and control from the Board of Selectmen for sanitary landfill purposes to the Board of Selectmen for the purpose of conveyance, and to authorize the Board of Selectmen, on such terms and conditions as the Selectmen may determine, which may be wholly or partly in consideration of a conveyance of land or interest in land to the town, to convey to the town of Reading, acting by and through its municipal light board, approximately 6.5 acres of land, being a portion of the land shown as Parcel 2 on the plan entitled Plan of Land in North Reading, Mass., dated July 8, 1968, recorded with the Middlesex South District Registry of Deeds as Plan Number 481 of 1969 in Book 11-681, page end, the exact location and boundaries of said portion to be that portion which the Board of Selectmen determines is no longer needed for said municipal landfill purposes, as specified in Article 1 as printed in the warrant.
You have heard the motion. Does the Finance Committee have a recommendation? Mr. Jones, Sr.
Mr. Moderator, the Finance Committee recommends this article and the subsequent 2 articles. And I think enough of the details have been given through hearings and the transcript and perhaps later this evening. But in essence, Reading Municipal Light needed to build a new substation in order to meet the growth of North Reading, and announced its intention to do so on a parcel of land that it owned on Haverhill Street. This site became a problem which provided a lot of heat in the protest, but, no pun intended, generated a lot of light in the discussion and subsequent resolutions that followed. There will be some legal cost to the town to properly document and execute this agreement. But upon regaining ownership of the 2 parcels, the town of North Reading has perhaps 2 possible options with these 2 parcels. One option on one parcel is to retain it and give it open land status, and the possible second option on the remaining parcel is to sell it back to the private sector, keep it on the tax rolls, and from the income from that selling price, not only recoup the legal costs involved, but perhaps provide some additional funds for some other beneficial civic use. So in summary, the town of Reading through its Finance Committee and town meeting unanimously approved this on November 10th, and we in turn would urge the voters of North Reading to respond in kind and vote yes on all three articles.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. On the motion, and on the main motion under Article 1, you have something?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The Board of Selectmen recommend the article, and we would like to make just a few brief comments on behalf of the board. This is something that we've been working on the past few months. We've received a great deal of cooperation from the neighborhood and all the town departments in North Reading, as well as the town departments in the town of Reading, and I think is actually a wonderful example of inter-community cooperation and intra-community cooperation. We've worked very hard. We're very appreciative of your attendance here tonight. And we will not belabor the point, but the Board of Selectmen unanimously favors this article. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. The Community Planning Commission have a recommendation. Yes. Thank you. Yes? Please state your name and address, sir.
Barry Smith, 14 Heritage Way. And I'd just like to say quickly, I'd like to take a moment to publicly acknowledge two individuals for their roles on this issue. First is Selectman Brad Jones. When Mr. Brad Jones was made aware of an issue that was of concern to his constituents, he immediately investigated and made his concerns his problem. Throughout the ensuing process, he's kept us very well informed and has truly lived up to his role as a representative of this community. Not only has Mr. Jones developed a solution to this problem, he found the best solution to this problem. This isn't a compromise because everyone involved agrees it's an ideal resolution. RMLD has described this as a dream location and one that is far better than any of the others that were proposed. The second individual is even more responsible for our being here this evening. By his absolute mismanagement of a problem that has existed for years, Len Rucker has made it possible for us all to take an evening during a very busy time of year and bail him out. As a customer of RMLD and a citizen of this town, I'm appalled by the apparent inability of Mr. Rucker to find a suitable solution to this problem. To make matters worse, Mr. Rucker has, at every step of this process...
Just a moment, sir. This is getting to be a personal attack.
No, it's not, sir.
It is not an appropriate place in this meeting to launch into this kind of tirade.
Well,
will you please be seated, sir? Would you... Now, we wanted, there have been several requests from the audience to cut the debate short. Mr. Pasquale, can you state what you have to say very briefly?
John Pasquale, 12 Hickory Lane. I'll be brief. 6.5 acres. Is this going to be taxed? Or revenue? Or are we giving them a gift? First question. Second question, I'm always interested in the protection of the citizens. And I'll use the analogy of 57 Havel Street, where they had the PCBs and the transformers over there, and they don't have them in the new ones. But what are they going to put on this 6.5 acres that we're responsible? When I say we, because if a fire breaks out, I want to know what agreements. I didn't hear that we have agreements for snow removal, if there's a fire, if this is going to be diked in case the oil gets underground over there, all the trees around it, who's going to maintain it once it's on that property over there? Those are the questions. So